So my bestie has officially hit the carpet, shut it down. Everybody could go home now. And my mom. You shut it down too, Mom.
You look so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you both. Okay. Kendall Jenner is here and Zach Posen is here, and this dress is absolutely incredible, and I want to know how
That's it. Move.
That's the guy.
What's the biggest difference between you and Flo? Like, how people can see you guys apart?
Get out the way, ladies.
Okay, you guys, I need you to picture this. It's May 4th, the biggest night in fashion, and the Kardashian Jenners are doing what they do best, which is showing up to the Met Gala and basically turning the carpet into their own personal red carpet event. Kris Jenner is in this orange and white Hawaii-inspired coat with sequins and actual marble statues sewn into the panels, like she literally walked out of a museum and decided to be the museum. Kim is in a body-molded orange dress that's so tight she had to eat a cupcake before stepping out, because she knew she wasn't eating again until midnight. Kendall is doing the angel wings thing in a nude Gap studio gown by Zach Posen. Kylie has bleached eyebrows that she's already saying she regrets. Like, girl, we could have told you that. And you're scrolling through these photos. You're seeing Kris, Kim, Kendall, Kylie, all four of them on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And you're thinking, wait, where is Kourtney? Because Kourtney Kardashian, the oldest sister, the one who's been at every Met Gala when the family goes, the one who literally got married to Travis Barker in Italy in front of every single one of these people, was nowhere to be seen. Not on the carpet, not in any of the group photos, not even in a passive-aggressive Instagram story posted from the airport like she's running late. Nope. You want to know where Kourtney was on May 4th? 2026. While her entire family was getting their angles photographed by every fashion publication on Earth, she was 3,000 miles away in Los Angeles, sitting in a comedy theater at the Netflix Is a Joke festival, holding hands with Travis Barker, watching what is by all accounts a very mid-stand-up set. And the official line, the one that her people put out, is that this was just a date night. Just a random Tuesday energy date night. Nothing to read into. Except it wasn't a Tuesday. It was the night her entire family was on the biggest stage in pop culture, and she chose to sit in the dark in Los Feliz instead. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is just Kourtney being Kourtney. She's the witchy one, she's the granola mom, she does her own thing, blah blah blah. And yeah, sure, on the surface, that's the story. That's the story her publicist would love for you to swallow. But the more you actually look at what was happening in the Kardashian family in the weeks leading up to May 4th, the more you realize this was not a casual conflict in scheduling. This was a statement. And the only people who don't seem to be saying anything about it out loud are the ones it was aimed at. So let's get into what actually happened. So the Met Gala this year, the theme was super fine, tailoring Black style. It was a celebration of Black dandyism, hosted by Anna Wintour for what might be one of the last times, if the rumors about her stepping back are true. And the Kardashian Jenners obviously did not let that opportunity pass them by. They pulled up to the steps of the Met like they were filming the Season 8 premiere of their Hulu show. Because in a way, they kind of were. Kris Jenner walked in first, on the arm of her boyfriend, Corey Gamble, wearing that orange and white Harry coat I mentioned. And immediately the cameras went insane, because Kris had reportedly spent 8 months working with the designer on this look. 8 months for one night. She wasn't there to play. Then Kim showed up in this orange skin-tight molded dress that looked like it was poured onto her body. And she did the thing where she stops at the top of the stairs, turns her head exactly 45 degrees, and gives the cameras 2.5 seconds of stillness before walking inside. It's the same move she's done at every Met Gala since 2013, and it works every time because of course it does. She invented the algorithm. Kendall came in solo, no boyfriend on her arm, in the Gap studio number with the angel wings spreading out behind her, and the internet collectively lost it over the wings because they were giving 2017 Victoria's Secret runway energy. And Kylie showed up in this black corseted dress with the controversial bleached eyebrows, which she has since admitted on TikTok that she shouldn't have done. But the eyebrows had already trended on Twitter for 14 hours by the time she made that admission. So the damage was done. 4 Kardashian Jenners, one Met Gala, one of the biggest fashion nights of the year, and a glaring Kourtney-shaped hole in the family photo. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, at the Largo Theater in Los Feliz, the Netflix Is a Joke festival was running its 8th night of programming. and Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, holding hands, walked into a stand-up set being performed by, and I want you to hear me out on this, Jeff Ross. Jeff Ross, the Roastmaster General. A comedian who, with all due respect, is not exactly a hot ticket. This is not the kind of show you fly back from Miami to catch. This is not a show you'd hear about and go, oh my god, I have to be there. And yet, this is where Kourtney chose to be on the night her mother, her sister, her 2 younger sisters were all walking the most photographed staircase on the planet, and her people, when asked about it, said the same thing they always say, that Kourtney is in her own era, that she's prioritizing her family, that she and Travis are just enjoying a simple date night. Except simple date nights don't get scheduled on the exact same evening that your entire family is being broadcast to the entire world. That's not a date night. That's a choice. And you don't make a choice that public unless you're trying to send a message. Okay, so to understand why Kourtney didn't show up on May 4th, you have to rewind. You have to go back to like the last 3 weeks of April, because that's when this whole thing actually started, even though nobody was paying attention at the time. Here's the timeline, and I want you to follow this with me. On April 16th, Vogue runs their first Met Gala preview piece, and they include a quote from a source close to the family that says, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the Kardashian-Jenner appearance this year is going to be a family moment. A family moment. That's the phrase they used. Now, in normal person language, when you hear family moment, you assume that includes the whole family. You assume that includes Kourtney. Especially since the last time the family went to the Met as a unit was 2024, and Kourtney sat that one out because she just had baby Rocky and was on maternity leave. So by April 16th, the assumption is, okay, she's back. Rocky is 1.5 now. She's coming. Nobody told Kourtney that. On April 22nd, Page 6 runs a piece saying that Kris Jenner is in advanced talks with Anna Wintour to coordinate the looks. 4 looks. Kris, Kim, Kendall, Kylie, 4, not 5. Now, to be fair, Page 6 gets things wrong all the time, but Page 6 also has multiple sources inside the Kardashian camp, and they don't usually get the family count wrong. So somewhere around April 22nd, somebody, somewhere, made the decision that this year's Met moment was going to be a quartet, not a quintet. And the question is, who made that decision? And did they ever bother to tell the person being left out? Then comes April 29th. Kris Jenner goes on Chloe in Wonderland, which is Chloe's podcast, and during a conversation about the upcoming Met, Kris does the thing where she talks about her daughters in the order she thinks of them. Kim, Kendall, Kylie, and Chloe. Chloe gets mentioned. Chloe, who wasn't even invited, gets mentioned by name before Kourtney does, and Kourtney doesn't get mentioned at all in the segment about the Met. Like, she wasn't even in the room when the conversations were happening because functionally, she wasn't. And then, the kicker. On May 2nd, 2 days before the gala, the family does a private dinner at San Vicente bungalows to celebrate Kris Jenner being honored at the gala. Kim is there. Kendall is there. Kylie is there. Chloe shows up for support. Kris's boyfriend Corey is there. Kourtney and Travis are not. There are no photos, but there are valet records, and there are reservation logs, and there are very specific paparazzi accounts that you and I both know exactly which ones I'm talking about. And they did not see Kourtney's car that night. So by the time we get to May 4th, the question isn't really, why did Kourtney skip the Met? The question is, did anybody actually expect her to show up? Now here's where I think a lot of you guys are going to disagree with me. But hear me out, because the easy story to tell about Kourtney and Travis right now, the story that everybody has been telling for the last 3 years, is that Travis Barker is the controlling husband, that he's the one isolating her from her family, that he's the one with the wandering eye and the inappropriate gift situation with his daughter and the cheating allegations and all of that. And listen, I covered that story. I covered it twice. And at the time, looking at the evidence we had, it tracked. It really did. But what's been happening over the last 6 weeks? You can't read that as Travis isolating Kourtney. You have to read it the other way. Travis is the one place she has left to go. Think about it like this. Travis is the guy who actually showed up to her baby shower for Rocky. Kris Jenner was there for 40 minutes, took her photos, and left for a Hulu strategy meeting. Kim sent a gift through her assistant. Kendall didn't come at all because she had a Fashion Week obligation in Copenhagen that her people knew about 3 months in advance. Travis was there for the entire 7 hours, on the floor, playing with Mason, taking the candid videos that ended up on Kourtney's Instagram. That's not a controlling husband. That's a husband who is actually present in the room when nobody else in her family bothered to show up. And then there's the comedy festival thing, which I think is the detail that really makes this whole story click. Because Travis is friends with Jeff Ross. Like, actually friends with him. They did a Comedy Central roast together back in 2017, and Travis was one of the people who got roasted. And Jeff Ross has gone on record multiple times saying that Travis was the only celebrity that night who took every single joke without flinching, even the ones about his plane crash. So when Travis pulled up to that comedy show on May 4th with Kourtney, it wasn't just a random night out. That was him bringing his wife into his world, into a community where she's not the fourth most famous person in the room, where she's not in anybody's shadow. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Travis Barker is a saint, because the receipts on the cheating stuff from February were real, and a lot of you guys flagged that in the comments, and I agreed with you then, and I agree with you now. But the question of who is isolating Kourtney from her family right now, in May 2026, that question has an answer, and the answer isn't Travis. The answer is that her family started leaving her out of the photo, and Travis was the one who kept reminding her that there was still a photo she belonged in. Okay, so the Met thing isn't an isolated incident. It's the most public moment in a pattern that has been building since basically the moment Kourtney started dating Travis in 2021. And once you actually lay out the receipts in order, it's almost embarrassing how obvious it's been. Start with Poosh. Poosh is Kourtney's lifestyle brand that she launched in 2019. And for the first 3 years, it functioned as basically a sub-brand of the Kardashian universe. The website was full of cross-promotional content with Kim's Skims, with Kylie Cosmetics, with Khloe's Good American. Then in 2023, Kourtney did this incredibly quiet thing where she had Poosh removed from every single Kardashian-affiliated landing page. Like, just slowly, post by post, the cross-promotion disappeared. And by the end of 2024, if you went to skims.com looking for a Kourtney link, you couldn't find one. She had pulled her entire brand out of the family ecosystem, and nobody really talked about it because she did it so gradually. Then there's the Hulu show, The Kardashians on Hulu. This is where it gets interesting, because Kourtney's storylines in seasons 6 and 7 have gotten progressively shorter. Season 5, she had multiple confessional segments per episode. Season 6, she had maybe 1 or 2. Season 7, which started airing in March, she has had less than 4 minutes of screen time across the first 6 episodes. 4 minutes across 6 episodes. Her producers have publicly said that this is because she's been focused on Rocky and on her wellness brand. But multiple people inside the production have told outlets like the Daily Mail and Us Weekly that Kourtney has been actively turning down filming opportunities, that she shows up to weddings and parties without a camera crew, that she's been telling the producers, no, you can't film this. And the producers obviously can't force her because she's family. But they're also clearly frustrated because there's a reason her segments are getting shorter and shorter. And that reason is that she's not giving them anything to work with. And then there's the small stuff, which honestly might be the most telling. She stopped going to Kim's Skims pop-up events. She didn't show up to Khloe's Good American Fashion Week presentation in September. She skipped Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party in November, claiming Travis had a tour date, which, fact check, the tour was on hiatus that week. So by the time we get to the Met Gala on May 4th, this is not a sudden rupture. This is the predictable endpoint of a separation that's been happening in slow motion for 2.5 years. The only difference is that this time, instead of pulling back quietly, Kourtney made sure the absence was loud. She made sure the family had to answer questions about where she was. And that's not a woman who got blindsided by being left out. That's a woman who has been preparing to leave the room for a very long time. And I want to pause here for a second, because I think this is the moment where this story stops being a tabloid story and starts being something else. We've been watching the Kardashians for 19 years. 19 years. Keeping Up with the Kardashians premiered on October 14th, 2007. That is longer than some of you watching this video have been alive. And the entire premise of the show, the thing that made it a billion-dollar empire, was that this was a family. That the value of being a Kardashian was that you were part of the unit. You were one of the girls. You went to the same dinners, you wore the same colors at Met Galas, you posed in the same Christmas card. The brand was never any individual Kardashian. The brand was the plural. The brand was the "I cheer" at the end of the word. Kourtney is the first one to figure out, publicly, undeniably, that the plural doesn't include her anymore. And here's what I want you to actually sit with, because I think this is the part that's been missing from the coverage. For the last 3 years, every single piece of content about Kourtney has framed her as the difficult sister, the one who doesn't want to film, the one who fought with Kim about the Bratz Dolly party bus thing, the one who married Travis and went granola. And the framing of all of that, the framing that came out of the Kardashian PR machine, was that Kourtney was being unreasonable, that she was the problem, that her family was being patient with her. What if she wasn't the problem? What if she was the canary? What if the Kardashian Jenner machine, the thing that turned 5 girls from Calabasas into a global brand worth billions of dollars, has been quietly chewing up the people inside of it for years? And Kourtney is the one who looked around and decided she didn't want to be in there anymore. And the family's response to that, instead of asking her why, was to slowly, methodically edit her out of the photo. Fewer confessionals, fewer dinners, fewer Met Gala looks coordinated by Anna Wintour, until she got the message and started doing the editing herself. The Met Gala on May 4th wasn't Kourtney finally snapping and ditching her family. The Met Gala on May 4th was Kourtney finally accepting an offer the family had already made her, which was, you don't have to come anymore. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to looking at this story as a gossip column about a missing Kardashian. This is a story about what happens when the brand decides you're more useful as a memory than as a participant. Okay, that's the heavy part. Now, let's talk about what happens next, because I promise you, Kris Jenner is not letting this go. So here's where it gets interesting, because Kris Jenner does not lose. Kris Jenner has spent 20 years building a machine that turns family drama into ad revenue, and the one thing she cannot tolerate is a Kardashian being publicly outside her control. So the question now is, what does she do? Option 1 is the easy one. She frames it. She gets a friendly outlet, probably a news, probably a Daily Mail exclusive, definitely something with her communications team's fingerprints on it, and she puts out a story that says Kourtney was always going to skip the Met because Rocky has been sick, or because she's pregnant again, or because she had a wellness retreat booked months in advance. And that story, which is going to be at least partially fabricated, becomes the official record. And 3 weeks from now, when you Google Kourtney Met Gala absence, the top result is going to be that piece. And the actual story that we just walked through stops mattering because it's been replaced by a softer version. Option 2 is the harder one, but the more lucrative one. She invites Kourtney back, but with conditions. She gives her a producer credit on season 8. She lets her control her storyline. She lets her bring Travis on the show as a recurring character. She gives Kourtney the one thing Kourtney has actually wanted for 3 years, which is the ability to be on the Kardashians without being treated like the Kardashian. And in exchange, Kourtney comes back to Christmas Eve. She shows up to the next Met Gala. She takes the family photo, and everybody pretends May 4th never happened. I think this is what's going to happen, by the way, because Kris Jenner did not build a billion-dollar empire by losing daughters. Option 3 is the one nobody at the family is willing to consider, which is that Kourtney actually leaves, like leaves, doesn't film season 9, moves to maybe Nashville because that's where Travis has been spending more time, pulls Poosh out completely, does her own podcast or her own Substack, and starts telling her version of the last 20 years. And I want to be clear, the chances of this happening are low. Kourtney is a Kardashian. She will not give up the empire that easily. But if she ever did, and if she ever decided to actually tell the story of what it was like to grow up in front of those cameras, the family would lose more than a sister. They would lose the narrative. And there are people inside that family who know that. There are people who have been watching Kourtney pull away for 3 years and quietly running the math on what happens if she ever decides to talk. And I think the reason Kim has been so quiet about the Met absence, the reason Kris hasn't said a word on her podcast yet, the reason Khloe hasn't done her usual peacemaker TikTok is because all 3 of them are doing that math right now. So let's go back to May 4th for a second. Let's go back to those steps. The photos that came out of that night. The ones that ended up in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and on the front page of every entertainment site. Those photos showed 4 Kardashian Jenners. Kris with her marble statues. Kim with her cupcake-fueled molded dress. Kendall with her angel wings. Kylie with the bleached eyebrows she immediately regretted. And in every single one of those photos, there is a space. A space between Kris and Kim, or between Kim and Kendall. Or sometimes off to the side. A space that didn't used to be there. a space where Kourtney would have stood. And if you look at the photos from 2022, the last time the full unit went together, Kourtney is standing in that exact spot. She's in that pink Chanel by Virginie VR dress, holding Kim's hand, half smiling because she didn't want to be there, but she showed up because that's what Kardashians do. And in 2026, 3 years later, that spot is empty. It just is. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away at the Largo Theater in Los Feliz, Kourtney was sitting next to Travis Barker watching Jeff Ross make jokes about plane crashes. She was not on a carpet. She was not getting photographed for fashion editorials. She was not standing in formation with 3 of her sisters and her mother in coordinated colors orchestrated by Anna Wintour. She was just sitting in a comedy theater on a chair, holding her husband's hand, eating popcorn, probably checking her phone twice, and looking at the Met coverage and putting her phone back down without commenting. And the question that her family is asking right now, the question that Kris and Kim and Khloe are running the math on at this exact moment, is whether Kourtney is going to be in that empty space at next year's Met Gala, whether the photo can be repaired, whether the family unit can be reassembled in time for season 9 of the Hulu show. Here's what I think. I think the space stays empty. I think the photo from May 4th, 2026 is the new normal. And I think one day, probably sooner than the family wants to admit, that empty space is going to stop looking like an absence. And it's going to start looking like an answer. The photo of 4 Kardashians on the Met steps is not a family photo. It is a missing persons report.